Spokane listens when business talks. Welcome to Business Talks, the region's only local business talk show with your host, Ryan McNeice. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU and Well Dressed Walrus. Now, let's get down to business with Business Talks.
Welcome to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeice, and we're here in the studio with Andrea Nicole Williams of Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Thank you for being here, Andrea. And Andrea and I have known each other for many years. Thank you for making this work. You're coming over from Seattle, and I think it's important to have you here and talk about what's really behind type 1 diabetes and what it means to live with it, and then what the organization that you're a part of is doing to promote and bring awareness to this. Thanks for being here.
Oh, yeah. I'm really happy to be here. It was no problem. I'm a Spokane girl, born and raised, lived here for 23 years, so I'm happy to be back and happy to talk about type 1 diabetes and the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. So thanks for having me.
Andrea, for you, obviously, this is personal in the sense that this wasn't something you were dealing with at 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old. Tell us your story in terms of when this first affected you, and obviously awareness became loud and clear.
Yeah, so I actually was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 20, which a lot of people think about type 1 diabetes. They think about juvenile diabetes, and they are the same thing. So, but I was clearly not a juvenile when I was diagnosed because I was over the age of 18. So I was diagnosed at the age of 20, a week before my junior year of college, September 15th, 2009.
You definitely can remember the date.
Yeah. I call it my diaversary. So I celebrate my diabetes diagnosis every year with some friends and everything, so it's pretty cool.
And I remember at the time seeing you on a regular basis. It was a significant physical change that I think essentially alerted you that something's wrong here. What was kind of the first signs that this might be affecting you?
Well, I mean, as you saw, because we knew each other, I had lost a significant amount of weight towards right before diagnosis. A total of about 40 pounds is what the amount of weight I had lost, and I have I'm not a...
Yeah, exactly. So 40 was significant.
It was significant. So I had lost a bunch of weight. I was super thirsty and hungry all the time. Like you hear the word hangry, and I was hangry all the time.
Yeah,
so,
I do know that occasionally.
Yeah. I think we all suffer from a little bit of hangry.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get enough food. I was super lethargic. I was sleeping like I think I remember my record was like 18 hours that I had slept in one sitting.
Oh my gosh.
And but I was super thirsty. I was drinking an incredible amount of water. I had to use the restroom all the time. As soon as we got any place, I was like, I need water. I got to know where the restroom is. So there was significant impact, and I was super irritable.
And so for you, I think as you've mentioned, it was a bit differentiated in the sense that some folks have a bit of a slow roll into some of the symptoms, but I think as you'd indicate in your case, it was almost just like, bam, 0 to 60.
Yeah, I was really, so with people with type 1 diabetes, they have kind of a slow progression into the disease, which happens most of the time, but not always, clearly in my case. And the doctors are still a little stumped about it. They usually have kind of a slow progression into type 1 diabetes, and they have what they call a honeymoon period, and we'll talk about kind of that as we talk about type 1 diabetes, but I just went down. It was just really fast. So with type 1 diabetes, I mean, people hear about diabetes all the time, right?
I think they hear about it, but I don't think they know what it really means to either live with it or what the actual symptoms and or life effects are.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't blame them, because I would hear diabetes and I didn't really know what it was. I was 20 and I was busy, and what's diabetes? Oh, blah, you know.
Doesn't affect my life right now, and then it does.
Then it does, and my whole life is definitely around diabetes.
Well, and I think that's obviously worth noting, that not only obviously did it affect you significantly in your family at 20 years old, but you've taken the opportunity now to make make this something that you can bring awareness to, not only through the Seattle or Spokane or our region, but nationally. So you've really taken the opportunity to selflessly try to bring awareness to this. And if we could, we'll circle back to some of the actual physical issues you've dealt with, but you're heavily involved with the Research Foundation. What are some of the events that you feel like are really promoting type 1 diabetes right at this point that you're involved in?
So the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, and we call it JDRF typically, and so we actually we're an international organization, so we throw events all over the world promoting type 1 diabetes. We're actually the leading global organization that focuses on curing, treating, and preventing type 1 diabetes. And we are heavily involved in research, but also in advocacy. So we are always on the Hill charging for more diabetes care and everything. So some of the events we do, we throw galas around the country. We throw golf tournaments around the country. We do walks, which we have a Spokane one walk in September.
So that's coming up this September.
Yeah, on the 23rd. So, and it takes place at Riverfront Park.
Perfect. That's newly renovated.
Yeah,
and actually, good point. I wanted to mention that, isn't it ironic that you actually took this specific picture?
Yeah.
It's a great photo.
It was just the perfect moment. I turned around, I was like, I should take a picture of this.
Well, I remember talking to you several months ago saying, I love that photo, Spokane. Can we use that? And here it is. And here you are.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Full circle.
So there's the specific event in Spokane, the walk, but also I think that's how you had originally got involved with the foundation. Let's talk about that. Wasn't it the Bridge event in Seattle?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I live in Seattle now, and we do an event called Beat the Bridge, which is actually a partnership between Nordstrom and JDRF. Nordstrom actually started the event 36 years ago. So it's got an incredible legacy. And it's called Beat the Bridge because on a portion of it, it's called, we have an 8K race. And at mile 2.1, you have to run fast enough to beat the bridge before it raises.
Oh, so literally.
You actually have to beat a bridge. But it is at mile 2.1, so a lot of people run and then walk the rest of the way.
Like, let's sprint this out and walk the rest.
And I know that's kind of what I did on my first year. But
it inspired you to get involved.
It did. So it was really awesome. When I was diagnosed with type 1, I didn't know a lot of people. I didn't know, and then I didn't know people. I was still learning about the disease, and it is a learning process. There's so much to know about type 1 diabetes, and it really is a personal experience. Everyone's diabetes is a little bit different. And so I was just kind of like, oh, a friend had told me about Beat the Bridge, and I was like, oh, really? It benefits type 1 diabetes?
Right.
I have that. Sure.
Yeah, maybe I should be involved.
I signed up my first one, I signed up the week of Beat the Bridge and just went and ran as an individual. Ended up running into people I knew at the starting line and ran and was like, this is amazing.
And were these individuals also diagnosed or affected by type 1 diabetes somehow? These individuals you knew? The ones I knew actually weren't. A lot of people in Seattle come out just to do the event. Just to support the organization. So it actually is 10,000 people come to it. It's one of Seattle's largest endurance events and is actually the highest fundraising one within all of JDRF. So we raised last year $2.17 million. So it's pretty incredible. And I was so fortunate, I felt like, to be around all these people in this sense of community that it really inspired me to want to be involved. And it's cool because I attended the Spokane One Walk a couple years ago, and I was like, this is awesome, seeing all these families get together and do this incredible walk, and it's a beautiful day, and everyone has their team shirts, and everyone's got their own kind of logos. And collaboration.
Yeah,
collaboration
exactly.
for a common goal of bringing awareness to something that obviously is significantly affecting individuals' lives.
Yeah.
So at that point, you realized this is something I really want to take part in myself.
Yeah. You
reached out to the organization?
I did. I originally, when we touched on advocacy a little bit, I wanted to get involved. I did Beat the Bridge event, and I was like, I want to be involved with JDRF, and I went to be an advocate for them, and I was super excited to just kind of get involved in that way, because it was an easy, feasible thing that I could sit down and do right then. And so I've worked in some of the advocacy, and then was so inspired. I clicked the careers page and realized, I was like, there was a job opening in Seattle, and I was like, I want this. And when it just so happened to be working on the event that I had participated in, I was like, yes, this is it.
This is a perfect fit, and the timing is right.
And so now I work with kids, and I work with families all affected by type 1 diabetes, and it's really just a sense of community. The type 1 diabetes community is incredible. It really is. It's when you run into another type 1, I call them a diabuddy.
In the group, because we all speak kind of our own language, and we all you've
deal
had
with
similar experiences.
Yeah, so it's really cool, and you feel that, like at the Spokane One Walk, I remember feeling that, and all of these events that JDRF has, whatever event they are, you really get this incredible sense of community. And I've gotten my best friend in Seattle I met through a JDRF event. She is also type 1, and we're two peas in a pod.
Well, again, a lot of great stories that probably have come from that overall collaboration. I think you recently did an event, a Sounders game.
Yeah.
And I mean, what a great opportunity to promote to a significant crowd, not only in Seattle, but within the soccer league.
So I'm a big soccer fan. I played for 11 years. And actually, I did a little event with my best friend at the Sounders game, because 2 of the Sounders players are actually type 1 diabetic. Yeah. One of the rookie of the year starting forward last year, Jordan Morris, is type 1. He's injured, unfortunately. He got injured pretty early in the season. But now they have a new player from Norway named McNeice that is also type 1. So now you have 2 type 1s. So the Sounders actually have gotten very involved with the JDRF in Seattle, so it's pretty incredible. And they provided me the opportunity to go actually get on the Megatron, which was super intimidating.
Yeah, that had to be a little intimidating.
To have the opportunity to talk about type 1 and the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. So it's been an incredible, I've gotten to experience so many wonderful things that I would not have if I was type 1 diabetic. So that's been pretty incredible.
Well, amazing perspective for you, and with the Sounders example, it's almost twofold. What a great opportunity for the Sounders to promote and bring awareness to it, but with players to be able to identify that you can play at the top levels of sport with these challenges.
Yeah.
I think that's important for people to understand, that although it does bring its very specific challenges to your life, to perform at these highest levels can be done with the proper care, prevention, awareness, etc. Let's take a short little break and come right back and talk about the Research Foundation. Thank you.
Awesome.
Hi, this is Kurt Stockwell with Well Dressed Walrus. We are a local website design and development company here in Spokane. What we do is build beautiful, usable websites for local businesses. A website needs to be beautiful, it needs to be usable for your users, your customers, and yourself. Contact us anytime. We'd love to talk with you about your online marketing.
The following is sponsored by our friends and community supporters at McNeice Wheeler Attorneys. McNeice Wheeler is a boutique law firm in Spokane, handling matters in both Washington and Idaho. Areas of law include business law, wills, trusts and estates, family law, personal injury and wrongful death, and real estate matters. For your full-service legal needs, contact McNeice Wheeler Attorneys. The economy is getting stronger. Banks are lending again, and interest rates are at historic lows. Now is a great time to buy your dream home. The caring and knowledgeable professionals at Homes for You have been helping people just like you for over 20 years. They take the time to listen to what you want and will help you find just the right home in Washington or Idaho. Real estate is what we do at Homes for You, 928-5782, or visit online at homes4uspokane.com.
Hi everyone, I'm weather forecaster and assignment anchor at Spokane Talks Online, Colin Pittman, and I am honored to be the host of the new program, Spokane's Youth Spotlight, brought to you by Spokane Talks Online and the Spokesman Review, where we are interviewing and getting to know outstanding youth in our community each month. If you'd like to nominate someone in our community that you think should be recognized, that is doing something great here in the region or has an amazing story, visit SpokaneTalksOnline.com or Spokesman.com and look under Youth Spotlight to nominate. And be sure to tune in each month as we find the best in the Inland Northwest.
Welcome back to Business Talks. We're here in the studio with Andrea. Thank you. It's so fun chatting with you. It's good to see you again. But we're talking about diabetes and the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. And, you know, you're living a busy life. You're doing hundreds of different things. But one of the things that you're doing with the foundation is reaching out to corporations and talking to them and educating folks that I think any of us, if we admit any given field, we don't know enough about these issues or challenges unless we're dealing with it ourselves, which is a bit of a sad state of affairs. But when you go in and talk to these corporations, you're explaining the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Tell us more about that and how you're educating these corporate clients.
Yeah. Of course. It's one of my favorite parts of my job is I have this incredible platform to be an advocate and educate people about type 1 diabetes. Now, a lot of people hear diabetes, they hear about it a lot. You see commercials and you hear, you read things on Facebook about diabetes. I mean, you see Starbucks talking about a unicorn frappuccino that causes diabetes. So we all hear about diabetes. Yeah. But a lot of people are like, what is all this diabetes? There's different types. There's juvenile, there's type 1, type 2. So type 1 and juvenile diabetes are the same thing. And it got reclassified as type 1 diabetes because we saw more cases of people being diagnosed as adults and not just juveniles. So it got reclassified from juvenile diabetes to type 1 diabetes. And actually, in type 1 diabetes, over 80% of the population is living with this, over 80% of the type 1 diabetic population is in adulthood.
And that is interesting.
Yeah.
In type 1.
Yeah.
Which that makes sense why they would change up how it's being described because it isn't just a juvenile issue.
Yeah. So a lot of people, I was diagnosed at 20, but a lot of people are like, well, you've had it since you were a kid, right? And I was like, no, actually I haven't.
Right.
But I mean, when I was diagnosed, I didn't know the difference between the types of diabetes. And so most people, when they think of diabetes, they think of type 2, which is 100% understandable because 29 million Americans suffer from some form of diabetes, and only 1.25 million of those Americans are suffering from type 1. So diabetes, so we're looking 90 to 95% of cases are type 2. Now
that's interesting.
So type 2 diabetes is actually a metabolic disorder where your body is still producing insulin, but it doesn't know how to use it at its full capacity.
So it has to be managed differently.
Yes. So it often can be managed by diet and lifestyle choices. Not always. It can be managed through oral medication and sometimes insulin injections. But most people think of type 2 diabetes, and it has it often is caused, but not always, by those diet and lifestyle choices and can be treated that way. Now, the difference with type 1 diabetes is type 1 is actually an autoimmune disease, much like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis. So, and what happens is your immune system that's typically responsible for fighting off infections, it gets kind of confused, as I like to say, and it turns on your pancreas. So your pancreas has cells in it called beta cells that are responsible for producing insulin. And insulin is a hormone that's essential for life. Insulin allows you to turn your food into energy. And so we were talking actually earlier about how I lost a significant amount of weight. It was because I couldn't turn my food into energy. I didn't have insulin in my system to do so. So essentially I was starving from the inside out.
Yeah, your system was just turning on itself to a certain extent.
Exactly. And so type 1 has to be, you don't have insulin or you have little to no insulin. So type 1 diabetes, you have no choice. There's no diet and lifestyle choices that you can make.
You can't change that.
You can't change it. So people end up on insulin therapy for life. So you're on insulin therapy for life through forms of an injection, maybe with a vial and a needle, through these insulin pens, or you have an insulin pump, which is what I actually wear, which looks like it kind of looks like a pager or a BlackBerry. People are like, what is that? So like,
really a pager still?
Really a pager or a BlackBerry?
Yeah,
they're like,
seriously, get with the times, Andrea.
Yeah, get with the times.
But on that note, I think a piece that you and I had discussed is the significant progression in technology as to, I think, general public, or at least including me, you're used to seeing people testing with the needle prick on the finger, if you will, and we're all used to seeing that. But now with smartphones and smart watches, with the help of technologies like Apple, et cetera, explain to us how that testing process has changed, because this is not I might do this in 2 weeks. You're living with this in the testing every day.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
So type 1s and type 2s always have to test blood sugar, which is a measurement of your health in the moment, essentially. And someone that's a normal insulin producing individual, their blood sugars will range from maybe like 80 to 120 blood sugar. Now a type 1 can fluctuate. I have been 40 in a day, and I have been as high as 400. And that's in one day. So you have these incredible fluctuations. So that makes you're like, I have to know what my blood sugar is all the time. So I used to have to prick my finger 10 times a day, and most people still do. I am incredibly lucky working for the JDRF to be exposed to this incredible technology on an affordable level. And JDRF as an organization, that's why we do so much with advocacy, is to try and change the financial disparity with type 1 diabetes
and
care.
how people are living with it.
Yeah, because insulin is actually in the top 5 most expensive liquids in the world. So we're trying to change that. Yeah. So, but one thing that the JDRF has funded, and the technology you talked about, we've made incredible strides. So something that I wear today is called a constant glucose monitor, which is a system that I insert once a week. It's a awful looking system that you have to insert, but it's a system that tests my blood sugar every 5 minutes for me, and actually Bluetooths those blood sugars to my cell phone and then to my watch, so I can look at my watch and be like, oh, my blood sugar's 130.
I'm low,
that's
I'm high.
good.
Yeah.
And it can alert you if you enter those dangerous levels. So say I'm sleeping, I don't know what my blood sugar is. My watch will vibrate or my phone will ring and be
possibly wake you up.
Yeah, and wake me up.
So what would you do in that case? Let's say, because that is kind of a scary scenario you just mentioned. So your phone or your watch is vibrating or what have you, and you do wake up. How do you equalize to where you should be?
Yeah. So my blood sugar, if it's low, it means I need sugar in my system. So often I will take different things of glucose. Every diabetic has their favorite low snack, as we call it, our low snack.
Your go-to.
Yeah, so I keep apple juices in my fridge because it's fast-acting sugar, and I stay awake or try to. Sometimes I've fallen back asleep, but you try to stay awake to make sure your blood sugar gets to that normal range. Now, if it's too high, you need to take insulin so the sugar can then go into your cells.
Be assimilated.
Yep, exactly. Because your sugars or your sugar in your bloodstream cannot cross that cell barrier without insulin. So I have to get up and take my BlackBerry and
exactly,
and make sure that I calibrate for what my blood sugar is.
And so you apply that device, I think you said once a week.
I apply my constant glucose monitor once a week, and then where my insulin pump sits, that has to be changed every 3 days.
Every 3 days.
So I always tell people the best thing to know about type 1 diabetes is that it is a 24/7 job.
Yeah, you're living with it.
You're living with it. It affects, there's actually over 42 factors that affect blood sugar, not just food. People think it's just food, but it's exercise, it's the amount of sleep. It's I know for me, stress is an incredible thing that impacts my blood sugars like crazy.
Yeah,
so.
well, and I think as you mentioned earlier, what the general public is used to is type 2 diabetes as a percentage, and so you are thinking more diet, exercise related, et cetera. But I think you've done a good job of explaining there's significantly different internal issues going on with type 1.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned that with the technology that's out there, you can even have it set up that not only are you getting possibly the vibration of the phone while you're sleeping or at work, but also family members.
Yes.
For, I guess, the obvious reasons that what if you're actually, I don't know, maybe having an episode or something, but a family member can essentially, almost like a security system, alert police, law enforcement, EMTs. Is that how that works?
Yeah. So I actually have a friend that can follow my blood sugars on their cell phone. So if, say, it's in the middle of the night and I don't wake up to my alarms, which often happens, they wake up to them and they know, say, if they text me or they call me and I don't answer, that they know it's time to take that emergency step, and they'll send emergency first responders. And this technology has saved lives. It is,
I can see how.
Incredible. And it's such a wonderful thing for parents if their children are type 1 and are sleeping. The parents can see, like, from the next room without, I mean, I know parents that wake their kids up at 3 a.m. to check their blood sugars, and this way they can see it constantly.
They can just monitor and say we don't need to.
Yeah, or make the changes that they need to, and have been able to avoid situations that are...
Or even in school, kindergartner, first grader, fifth grader, you could be monitoring from the office.
Yeah, and school nurses can monitor, parents can monitor, anyone can monitor. I know it's worked well for people whose grandparents are in, say a senior living home, and they can see their blood sugar. So it's, it's an incredible caregiving tool. And so we've been able with the JDRF to bring some of these wonderful caregiving tools. I mean, ultimately we want a cure, but treating type 1
living
diabetes
with it,
is
I think incredible. As you're saying with JDRF, that bringing the awareness, not only that these are devices that might be used that maybe these families weren't aware of before, but also possibly the resources to make it feasible.
Yeah.
That even if it is available, a family might not be able to afford.
Right.
But through foundations like this, maybe more and more. So let's, in the little time that we probably have left, let's talk more about the events that are coming up and ways that you feel that folks could get involved.
Yeah.
You obviously took that step. Not only as somebody that was living with it, but friends and colleagues that don't necessarily have it got involved as well. Tell us some ways people can get involved.
So Spokane's incredible if you want to get involved in this local market. We have an incredible volunteer here. Her name is Jackie Jones. She is our walk chair. So the Spokane One Walk is a great way to get involved.
And that's going to be in September.
That's going to be on September 23rd. There's actually a diabetes convention this weekend, and one of my coworkers is actually at it. So I suggest attending that. We're looking actually to put more programs in Spokane as well. We do some incredible meetups, meetup for coffee on a Saturday morning with parents. So we're always really looking for volunteers, and they can contact us to kind of be that program in place. The Spokane market is completely volunteer run, so if people really are feeling strongly about hosting some kind of event, they can definitely contact us. They can contact me directly at awilliams@jdrf.org.
That's perfect.
They can call our office. Or if they visit if you search, actually, it's called the Spokane One Walk.
Okay.
The website will pop up, and Jackie's information is there directly if you want to talk to a local volunteer.
And can contact her.
Yeah. So, or if you want to just talk to somebody in general, you have general questions, you can always email us at jdrfnorthwest@jdrf.org. But like I said, JDRF is really well connected and everything. So people I really suggest, once you find one way into the diabetic community, it is incredible. The doors open.
And the resources and other, right. So in Seattle, what's the next event coming up? The walk here in Spokane in September. In Seattle, what's the next event?
We have a golf tournament coming up also in September. So we get a little bit of a break during the summer because our busy time over in Seattle is December through into of June. Typically, I got to escape for a couple days after my big event, so come to visit the family.
Well, what you've done a great job of today, and obviously in your employment, is with organizations like this, awareness, resources, fundraising, and this is just, I think, another opportunity to let individuals know that educating individuals on the options that are out there for folks that are living with this, and then obviously from a prevention standpoint, is fundraising and resources to accommodate individuals. So thank you, Andrea. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, it's great, and I hope that people come out to really support like the Spokane One Walk, whether that's through a corporate level or with their families. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me and letting me talk about type 1 diabetes and the JDRF.
Yeah, it's such an important cause. Thank you, Andrea. I appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Business Talks is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU and Well Dressed Walrus. Business Talks wishes you good business and a good day.